got the backyard barbecue, ice cold beer, Mountain Dew. What more can you ask for? It's summertime and it's cold in the fall. I ain't finished my first beer yet.
We're going to teach you some great things today. First of all, we're going to teach you how to make our award-winning ribs using Little Red's products. I'm going to show you how to make our award-winning ribs. Now, the first thing I want to talk to you about is you really can't control the quality of the rib that you're going to get at any store. You're kind of at the mercy of what they have available. Sometimes you can have a hookup, but the average person like you and I, we're just going to have to deal with what we got. So I'm not thrilled with these particular ribs, but I will tell you the good news is that using our rubs and sauces, you can take an average piece of meat and make it really, really good. And I dry them down for two reasons. One is because all that moisture that's there, I don't want that to prevent the rub we're going to use from really getting into the meat. But secondly, you'll notice on the back of this rib there is a membrane, and you want to remove this membrane, otherwise it's going to make that rib tough. And so this is an important step that you do before you ever think about putting a rub on the rib. So I've already kind of gotten it broken loose here, and it is quite slick, so sometimes I have to use a paper towel just to keep it dry. And sometimes they pull really, really well, and this one's not pulling too badly. I'll have to do a couple of different pulls on it. There are some that you might find yourself very frustrated, but just hang in there. It's worth it, because if you cheat on this particular step, you're not going to be happy with the tenderness of your rib. So see how that comes off there? And again, that's why you want to have that paper towel, and there you go. So I'm going to show you how to season this rib the correct way, which is you want to start from the back of the rib. And the reason is this is going to give you some flavor, but it's not going to give you quite as much flavor as the front. So you want to make sure that you season the back of the rib first, so that when you flip it over, you're not going to lose any of that great seasoning on the front. So we're going to start with a generous helping of Little Red's rib rub here all over the back of that rib, okay? And just kind of massage it in a little bit. That's why you want to dry it, okay? If you left all that moisture on there, then it's going to get really, really soupy looking and not penetrate the meat. So now you can see that I can get a good portion of this rub all over the front of this, or the top of this rib, okay? And again, don't forget the sides. Don't forget to hit every part that you or someone else is going to enjoy, okay? Now, you know NFL football is coming up. And so be looking online for a great NFL kickoff special that Little Red's Barbecue is going to have. We're going to give you an opportunity to get some of these great seasonings and sauces to use for your tailgate party, your backyard party, anything you're going to do to get ready for football. We're going to help you get there. We got our ribs all seasoned up. Time to put them on the pit. Now, we like to cook our ribs between 225 and 250, leaning closer to the 225 range. You know, sometimes you're going to have wind and other things that are going to be a factor, so you can chase a pit all day long, but if you get in that 225 to 250 range, you're going to be fine. Just don't let it spike up on you, and certainly don't let it get too cool on you, okay? So we're going to open the pit. And we've got 3 racks we're making today, so you want to give each of them plenty of room to cook. We're going to cook these ribs about 5.5, maybe 6 hours. And a lot of that depends on how your heat goes throughout the day. We're very fortunate that we've got a pit that we can control pretty well. Maybe you don't have that set up. It's not the end of the world. Okay, so we're at the 2-hour mark of cooking our ribs. Now, we don't open the pit door really at all until we know we're ready to do the finish on these, because we know what to expect. We know when we have a consistent temperature like we've had today that we're going to be just fine. I do know that it's not uncommon for people to get antsy. They want to see, what does that rib look like? And as a result, we're going to show you what the rib looks like at the 2-hour point, just so that when you open it up and you see it, you don't have questions about what you should be seeing. Okay, so again, we don't do this very often, but here is the 2-hour mark. Now you can see that there's some moisture still busting loose, And that's what you want. You want the natural moisture of that meat to begin to get way down into the meat, okay? So you may think, wow, that looks dry. No, that's not a dry look. That's exactly what you want at this point, because you want that rub to really begin to cook and get into that meat. So at about the 3.5 hour mark, we'll probably start putting just a little bit of spritz just to keep that moisture content there, but we'll show you that here in just a minute. Okay, so we're at about the 3.5 hour mark on the ribs, and we're going to do a little barbecue trick here. This is something that happens oftentimes in a barbecue cook-off, where you're trying to add additional moisture and sweetness into that rib. Pork is a naturally sweet meat as opposed to chicken, for example, but we're going to help it along a little bit. This is going to add additional flavor as well as a great caramelization texture that'll happen as we finish the ribs. So we're just going to take just an undiluted apple juice. Some use apple cider, and that's fine as well. But you can get this at any store. This is, I want to point out, a brand new spritz bottle. Please don't go and get your Windex bottle and try to pull this off. That's not going to be good. But we're just going to spritz them and freshen them up a mite. Want to coat them really good. Now, one of the things you have to be careful of is, obviously, this is naturally sweet, which means it has natural sugars. And anytime you introduce sugars into a heated environment, that sugar can actually caramelize, and will, but you don't want to get too much, otherwise it'll burn, and then you'll have a much darker rib than what you're looking for. So we should have a good finish starting at this point. Still got a couple hours or so to go. We'll see you in a bit. It's time to do the finishing sauce on these ribs. And again, we've heated this sauce up. This is our cherry chipotle sauce, and you want to heat it up. At the very least, it needs to be room temperature. Just make sure you're not putting a cold sauce on a warm meat. That's not what you're looking for, okay? So we'll open the pit up, and we're going to just put a good portion of this sauce. And as you can see, we're just using just a store-bought brush. You can use any number of things. I guess you could use a paper towel if you needed to, but you'll be a lot more efficient with the sauce. Use a lot less if you'll use a brush similar to the silicone brush, because it doesn't really waste a lot. Okay? So we're going to put a good coating on there. Look at the color there. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for a good reddish color right now that's going to turn into a caramelized looking color when this is said and done. Okay, so we're going to continue to put the sauce on these ribs, and then the next step, we're going to take them off, let them rest, and cut them up. So stay tuned. We're about there. Okay, it's that magic time. It's time to take these ribs off the pit. So we'll take them off. Here in a minute, we're going to take them in. We're going to let them rest. Now, so here's what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to achieve a rib that you got to be careful with. Okay, but it's got that shine to it. Oh yeah. These are going to be good, folks. Okay, so we've just brought our ribs in off the pit, and it's important that when you do so, you let that meat rest. Whether it's a brisket, a chicken, ribs, whatever it happens to be, you want it to rest, because what happens with that meat as it begins to rest, it begins to suck that juice back into itself so that you get the most moistness out of any type of meat that you're doing. So we're going to let these rest for about 10 or 15 minutes. Then we're going to cut them up, and you're going to love them. Alright, so I'm going to get this knife going, and I'm just going to run right down that meat. Okay? And I'm trying my best not to mess up the front of that, because that's a really pretty rib. So basically, when you're looking at a rib, you're looking at one that's done. This is a done rib. Ideally, you'd like to have a good smoke ring on that rib. So we're going to try this section right here and cut it. And again, you can see I'm following just the natural flow of that rib. Okay, now I'm cutting these into, basically 2 to 3 rib slabs, because that's what you're going to end up serving your guests more than likely. Certainly if you go to a restaurant, that's what they're going to give you. Okay, so we're going to come right down this. I'm going to show you the front end this time so I can benefit from the back end, and then just see how easy that slice is once you understand how that rib flows. Okay, so you can see that there is a nice doneness to this rib. You've got the moistness that comes from that finishing sauce as well as the rib itself. So these ribs are ready to eat. We're going to plate them up and show you a good looking completed plate here in just a moment. Alright, so what we've got is a beautiful looking rib that we've plated up. We know we're not the Food Network, but I'll tell you, this is a great looking plate of ribs. You can see it's got moisture associated with it. You can see that there's good meat on each rib. Your guests are going to really enjoy when you provide this kind of rib for them. And you can do it with an award-winning rib recipe, and that involves Little Red's rib rub and Little Red's cherry chipotle sauce as a finishing sauce. And even though we have a pit that's easily controlled, you can do this on your backyard grill. Just watch your temperature, keep your eye on the rib, don't let them get overdone, and you'll be in great shape. Check back for more recipes from Little Red's Barbecue.